picture a sport that, you know, packs stadiums from Scandinavia right through to the Middle East. It's this thrilling mix of speed and power, but for some people, maybe still a bit of a hidden gem.
Right.
It's handball. And today, we're not just watching the game, we're diving deep into its fascinating and actually surprisingly lucrative global handball market. Our mission, okay, let's unpack this. We're going to explore its really strong growth across different regions, different countries, uncovering some surprising trends, and the data-backed insights that paint a clear picture of where it's headed, right through to 2033.
Yeah.
And we're pulling these insights from a really comprehensive report by Cognitive Market Research. Gives us a very granular look.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is that while handball might seem, a bit niche in some areas, globally it's actually a rapidly expanding market. It's steadily capturing more attention, more investment.
Right. And when we say global handball market revenue, what exactly are we talking about? Is it tickets, sponsorship?
It's mostly a combination, yeah. Things like media rights, sponsorships, definitely merchandising, and then to a lesser extent, ticket sales and maybe participation fees.
Okay.
Looking at the big picture, this market's revenue was already pretty substantial. It was hovering around $941 million back in 2021.
Nearly $1 billion already.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really exciting. It's projected to jump to over $1.2 billion by 2025.
Wow.
And then the really striking part, it's expected to expand even further, hitting over $2 billion by 2033.
$2 billion.
Yeah, so this isn't just like a small uptick. This represents a steady compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of about 6.5% over more than a decade.
Okay, 6.5%.
It's, significant and consistent upward movement really signals a sport on a truly global rise.
Over $2 billion by 2033. That's a truly remarkable projection for a sport that, like you said, isn't always front and center for everyone. So, okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's break down where this growth is actually happening. We're going to sort of travel the globe, region by region, and uncover the unique stories behind these numbers. Let's maybe start with some of the most dynamic areas.
Sounds good.
Okay, when we talk about the global growth engine for handball, our sources point very firmly, almost emphatically, towards Asia Pacific. This region isn't just leading in market size, it's also setting the absolute pace for growth. Why? Why is Asia Pacific emerging as such a powerhouse for handball?
Yeah, you've hit on a really crucial point there. Asia Pacific is truly driving a huge chunk of the global expansion. And the why is, it's kind of multifaceted.
Okay.
It's a mix of massive populations, obviously, burgeoning economies with more disposable income, and just a growing appetite for different kinds of sports.
Right, looking beyond the traditional maybe.
Exactly. In terms of the numbers, the revenue there was already strong, over $375 million back in 2021. And it's set to jump to nearly $500 million by 2025. Then by 2033, the market there is projected to hit a massive $852 million.
Wow, $852 million.
Yeah, and this growth is underpinned by the highest regional CGR we've seen in the report. It's coming in at a really robust, almost 7%, about 6.959% to be precise.
7%, that's huge.
It signifies this powerful, sustained upward trend, often fueled by, strategic investments in youth sports and a growing middle class just interested in new forms of entertainment.
That's a massive leap and a clear sign that the region's really embracing handball, isn't it? So within this powerhouse region, which individual countries are the real stars? Who's contributing most to this incredible expansion? Are there breakout stars or, long-standing giants?
Yeah, absolutely. Within Asia Pacific, we see some truly standout performances that really illustrate this dynamic growth. India, for instance, is a major, major growth story. It boasts the highest individual country CER mentioned in our sources anywhere in the world.
The highest? Really?
Yes, an impressive 8.05% annually. So to put that in perspective, it's projected to more than double its market size by 2033, growing from around $41 million in 2021 to over $105 million.
Okay, so what's driving that in India specifically?
Well, it's likely fueled by a combination of things: a massive young population, increasing sports infrastructure development, and growing media exposure for sports beyond just cricket.
Makes sense.
Then you have Japan. Japan is the dominant revenue generator within the region, dollar-wise. It started at around $146 million in 2021.
Okay.
And it's steadily climbing to over $304 million by 2033. That's a solid 6% CAGR. Japan's strong economic base and existing sporting culture, that provides a stable foundation.
Right.
And China isn't far behind either, also showing a really robust growth with a 7.3% CAGR, moving from roughly 71 million in 2021 to nearly 167 million by 2033.
Still very strong.
Definitely. China's strategic investment in sports overall and that large, engaged population certainly play a role. We also see solid contributions from places like South Korea. It's about 6.6% CAGR. Australia at 6.7%. Singapore also 6.7%. And then the broader Southeast Asia region collectively at nearly 7%.
So it's pretty widespread growth then.
It is.
Wow.
The takeaway is really dynamic, diverse growth across the region, but with India as, well, the undeniable breakout star in terms of percentage growth.
It's credible. It really sounds like Asia-Pacific is where a lot of the future of global handball is being forged. Okay, moving on from this vibrant region, let's pivot. Let's go to another area that's showing some really surprising momentum. The Middle East. When many of us think of global sports, handball might not be the absolute first thing that comes to mind to this region, maybe. But the numbers here, they tell a really fascinating story. What's driving this sort of unexpected trajectory?
Indeed. Yeah, the Middle East is presenting a remarkably strong path for handball, and the why here is particularly interesting. The region's revenue was around 83 million back in 2021. It's forecast to reach over 111 million by 2025 and then surge to over 194 million by 2033.
Again, more than doubling.
Exactly. And this represents the second highest regional CAGR, a very significant 7.2%.
Second only to Asia-Pacific.
Precisely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it strongly suggests serious, deliberate investment. Things like sports infrastructure, hosting major international sporting events.
Wait, like Qatar hosting big events.
Exactly. And perhaps a growing youth demographic that's getting actively engaged in diverse team sports. Many countries in the Middle East have these ambitious national visions, things like Saudi Vision 2030. And those often include sports development and international sporting prominence. Handball seems to be clearly benefiting from that strategic push.
That's a powerful insight, that connection to national strategy. So within the Middle East, then, which specific countries are really driving this impressive growth? Who's leading the charge with these initiatives?
Okay, looking closer, the UAE is really leading the regional growth in terms of rate. It has the highest UAGR in the Middle East itself, an incredible 7.97%.
Almost 8%.
Yeah, so that means it's projected to go from around $9 million in 2021 to over $22 million by 2033. This reflects its broader ambition, as a global hub for events, for sports tourism.
Makes sense.
But, not to be overlooked, Saudi Arabia is actually the largest market in the Middle East in terms of dollar value. It's moving from around 36 million in 2021 to nearly 87 million by 2033. That's also a very strong 7.5% CAGR.
So bigger market, slightly slower growth than UAE, but still very high.
Exactly. Saudi Arabia's larger population and those significant investments in sports are clearly paying dividends. Other key players contributing significantly include Qatar, that's about 7.4% CAGR, Egypt at 7%, and Turkey just under 7% at 6.9%.
A strong collective effort.
It is, but the UAE and Saudi Arabia are definitely standouts in leveraging that strategic investment for handball's expansion.
So we've seen this, explosive, almost unexpected growth in Asia-Pacific and the Middle East, really challenging maybe traditional perceptions of handball's reach.
Yeah.
But what about the established sporting powerhouses? Let's shift focus now to North America, a region with a deep love for sports, obviously, but often dominated by basketball, American football, baseball.
Right.
How is handball carving out its niche and expanding its market there, often, in the shadow of these giants?
Yeah, that's an excellent way to frame it because North America does present a unique growth story. While it might not have the same deep historical ties to handball as parts of Europe,
Right.
it's still a substantial market and it's showing consistent progress. The market stood at over $225 million back in 2021.
Still pretty big.
Oh yeah. It's projected to increase to around $286 million by 2025 and estimated to reach over $461 million by 2033.
Okay.
So this is solid growth. It's maintaining a CAGR of about 6.16%. What's significant here is that even in a landscape that's really saturated with high-profile sports, handball is finding its audience.
How? How is it doing that?
Often through grassroots development, increasing international exposure, maybe through things like the Olympics, and perhaps just the appeal of its fast-paced, high-scoring nature to new viewers.
That's fascinating, especially how consistent the growth is, despite, the dominance of other major sports.
Yeah.
So within that substantial North American market, who are the top contributors.
Mm.
Does the report shed light on how handball manages to secure this consistent share? Are there specific strategies, maybe in the U.S. or Canada, like grassroots programs or media partnerships that seem to be working particularly well?
Absolutely. The United States, as you might expect, remains the largest market in North America by value. It generated about 128 million in 2021,
Okay.
and it's projected to reach over 254 million by 2033. That's with a respectable CAGR of 5.86%.
Solid, if not spectacular, compared to some others.
Right. Growth here often comes from increased participation in, say, school and club leagues, and also the growing digital consumption of international handball competitions online.
Right. Easier access now.
Exactly. But interestingly, Canada is actually showing stronger growth than the U.S., percentage-wise. It has a 7.22% CAGR.
Oh, really? Higher than the U.S.?
Yeah. Moving from nearly $61 million in 2021 to over $144 million by 2033.
Why do you think Canada's growing faster?
Well, it could be a few things. Maybe a more concentrated effort in certain urban centers, perhaps a sports culture that's a bit more diverse or open to new influences. And potentially just a smaller market base to begin with, meaning even moderate growth creates a higher percentage increase.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mexico also contributes, its market's growing at about a 5.1% CAGR. So it's clear that while the U.S. is the largest dollar-wise, other countries in the region, especially Canada, are making really significant strides in popularizing the sport, often through focused community-level initiatives.
Okay, so while we've explored these dynamic emerging markets and the steady growth in North America, it's crucial we don't forget the sort of historical heartland of handball. Let's turn our attention to Europe. This is where the sport has really deep roots, passionate leagues, a long-standing cultural presence. How does a mature market like Europe continue to grow? And are there any unexpected twists in its story?
Yeah, Europe remains a really formidable market, as you'd expect. Its revenue was about 141 million in 2021,
Okay.
growing to nearly 179 million in 2025, and projected to reach over 290 million by 2033. The region's CAGR is a healthy 6.28%.
Still growing quite well then, even
Yeah.
from a mature base.
Exactly. What's remarkable is that even in this mature market, with established fan bases, professional leagues, there's still robust and consistent growth. It points to the enduring popularity of handball, successful league management, and maybe renewed interest from younger generations through, say, digital platforms.
Right.
The challenge for Europe, though, is always going to be innovating and maintaining that momentum in what is a highly competitive sports landscape.
That's a great point. Because while Germany might be considered the traditional powerhouse, the report highlights something quite surprising. The United Kingdom is actually leading Europe in growth. It has the highest European country CAGR at 7.3%.
Yeah.
That's genuinely surprising to me, and probably many listeners, who might not immediately associate the UK strongly with handball. What factors are driving this? This burgeoning interest in a non-traditional market like the UK, maybe even outpacing some established nations in growth rate.
You've definitely hit on one of the most intriguing bits of the European data. The UK's leadership in European growth projected to go from around 39 million in 2021 to over 92 million by 2033. It suggests a real push, and maybe, like you said, a fresh, less saturated market for the sport within Europe.
Right, room to grow.
Exactly. This could be down to increased grassroots funding, targeted youth programs, maybe even just the appeal of a new, fast-paced team sport in a nation that already loves athletic competition. It's almost like handball is finding a kind of new frontier within an old continent.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And Germany.
Germany, of course, remains a strong traditional market, growing from about 25 million in 2021 to over 54 million by 2033. That's a solid 6.56% CAGR. Their growth is sustained by those deeply entrenched club structures, strong national team presence.
That makes sense.
We also see solid growth from others. Spain at 5.9%, Sweden 6.16%, Russia about 5.6%, Switzerland 5.9%. So good growth across the board mostly.
Any exceptions?
Well, on the other end of the spectrum, Luxembourg is noted for its relatively modest growth rate, about 5.08% CAGR, going from around 3.5 million in 2021 to just over 6 million by 2033.
Okay, so slower growth there.
Yeah, that lower growth might just be due to its smaller population and perhaps greater competition from other established sports in a smaller market context. It just highlights the diverse trends even within a region like Europe.
Okay, moving further south now, let's explore South America's contribution to this global picture. It's a continent obviously renowned for its passion for sports, especially football. So what are we seeing there for handball? How does it manage to capture attention?
South America definitely has pockets of energy for handball. It often grows from these really passionate local communities.
Right.
The regional market was valued at nearly $68 million back in 2021. It's expected to grow to over $84 million by 2025 and reach nearly $139 million by 2033. That gives it a CAGR of 6.42%.
So still strong growth, similar to Europe and North America overall.
Yeah, it demonstrates strong and steady interest. It shows the sport is truly resonating with a passionate sporting audience there, too. The challenge often in South America is about consistent funding and broad accessibility, across diverse geographic landscapes. But where it takes hold, it seems to thrive.
And which countries are leading the charge in South America? Are there particular hotspots for growth, maybe driven by successful national teams or strong club structures? And what about those less active areas you hinted at?
Absolutely. Colombia is actually exhibiting the highest South American country's CAGR at 6.79%.
Colombia, interesting.
Yeah, indicating a significant upswing in interest and market activity there. This suggests maybe concentrated efforts in certain regions or perhaps successful integration into school sports programs.
Okay.
Brazil, as you might expect, given its size and sporting culture, is the largest market in South America by value. It's projected to grow from about 27 million in 2021 to nearly 57 million by 2033. That's with a very strong 6.76% per CAGR, almost identical to Colombia's.
Right. Brazil's often strong across many sports.
Exactly. Their national team success in various sports, existing infrastructure likely provides a platform. We also see good growth from Argentina, that's 6.66% CAGR, Peru at 5.8%, and Chile 6.28%.
So pretty consistent across those main countries.
Yes, but here's the caveat. It's important to note that while these specific countries are thriving, the category labeled Rest of South America in the report showed a much, much more modest 0.93% CAGR.
Less than 1%.
Yeah. This highlights a really significant disparity. While certain nations are investing and seeing returns, broader continental growth is really uneven, likely due to varying levels of economic development, government support for sports, and just intense competition for more dominant sporting pastimes like football.
Got it. Okay, to round out our regional analysis, let's conclude with Africa. The continent boasts this immense youth population, an undeniable passion for sport. What's the story of handball's market development there? And what unique dynamics are shaping its growth compared to other regions?
Okay, Africa. Here, the market was valued at about $47 million in 2021. It's projected to reach over $54 million in 2025, and then nearly $73 million by 2033. Now, this represents the lowest regional CAGR we've discussed at 3.76%.
Okay, noticeably lower than everywhere else.
Yeah, and this immediately raises important questions like, what are the unique dynamics at play here? The report points to several factors. While there's definitely a burgeoning youth population and immense passion for sports, the growth for handball specifically is often hampered. Things like limited funding for grassroots programs, a lack of dedicated modern infrastructure for the sport, and just intense competition from much more dominant sports like football, basketball. The market maturity for handball is simply at an earlier stage here, so the growth is slower, but perhaps holds significant untapped long-term potential if the right strategic investments and development focus come into play.
Right. A continent of huge potential, but maybe bigger hurdles for handball right now.
Exactly. The barriers to entry and sustained growth seem higher currently.
Okay, so even with that lower regional CAGR overall, are there specific countries in Africa that are nevertheless leading the way, pushing the market expansion for handball, perhaps through focused initiatives?
Absolutely. Even within that slower growth, there are leaders. Nigeria stands out. It's the largest market in Africa, growing from about 20 million in 2021 to a projected 34 million by 2033.
Okay.
And it also has the highest African country's CAGR at 4.51%.
Right, so leading both in size and growth rate within the continent.
Correct. This could be due to its large population, perhaps a concerted effort to establish handball in schools, local communities. South Africa is another consistent contributor, showing growth at about a 4.16% CAGR. So while the overall regional growth is more modest compared to other continents, these countries are clearly building a solid foundation for the sport. It indicates that with strategic planning, similar growth could potentially be replicated elsewhere on the continent over time.
Right, okay. So we've done a whirlwind tour of the globe there. We've covered a lot of numbers, a lot of regions. It really reveals this tapestry of diverse growth patterns for handball. Let's try and distill these key insights. What does this all mean for you, the listener, and for the sport of handball globally?
Yeah, I think overall the picture is that the handball market is demonstrably robust. It's set for significant global expansion, poised to reach well over that $2 billion mark by 2033. What's truly striking for me, though, is the incredible diversity in those growth rates we've witnessed. You go from India's surging 8% CAGR,
Mm.
showing that explosive potential driven by demographics and maybe targeted investment,
Right, yeah.
all the way down to the more modest, sub 1% for the rest of South America, which really highlights the challenge of uneven development. And then you have the consistent dynamism of regions like Asia Pacific and the Middle East, seemingly fueled by strategic national initiatives.
Yeah.
This data, it really paints a comprehensive picture of a truly global sport,
Yeah.
one with strong, albeit varied, market penetration, and importantly, immense growth potential still.
It's pretty much just numbers.
Exactly. For you listening, this isn't just about market figures, it's a reflection of deeper currents, isn't it? Things like cultural adoption, the impact of economic development, evolving sporting interests around the world. It shows us where the next big sporting communities might be forming and expanding, and how a sport like handball, which maybe gets underestimated sometimes, is finding its footing in these incredibly diverse and sometimes challenging landscapes. It's really a testament to the power of sport to cross cultural boundaries.
That's a powerful summary. This deep dive has truly highlighted that the global handball market is absolutely on a clear growth path, projected to more than double its 2021 value by 2033, with these really distinct regional and national stories shaping what looks like a very exciting future.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. As you consider these diverse growth patterns, these varying success rates, what fundamental factors, maybe beyond just sporting popularity itself, things like infrastructure development or targeted youth engagement programs, or perhaps even how effectively digital innovation is leveraged, what do you think will be most crucial in determining which regions truly win the handball market in the coming decade? And how might that ultimately shape the sport's global identity?
That's a truly fascinating question to ponder, and one that really makes you think about the future of not just handball, but sports development globally. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the global handball market. We'll catch you next time.